Good morning, everybody. Welcome. So we're going to do some flow yoga, vinyasa. We're going to start in a child's pose, if that's all right with y'all. Now, if child's pose doesn't work for you, you can just start seated and catch up when we get to the next pose. That'll be fine. If you want to put some holiday music on in the background at your house, I'm not going to stop you. So find yourself in a child's pose if you want to add a pillow. I think I do today. You can add a pillow. Maybe the child's pose starts out with a little bit of a wobble side to side. Maybe the knees are closer together, maybe a little wider apart. Take a moment to get in touch with your breath. And you might even, it's a holiday, sort of holiday couple of days here. Maybe set an intention to let yourself have a little bit of fun, be a little bit joyful. It's tough sometimes on holidays, especially if you're separated from family or other things. But maybe just for this moment, we can just let ourselves indulge a little bit in being present, maybe a little bit find the wonder in our yoga practice today. Sometimes my intention is to let go of intentions. That would be a good one too. Take one more breath right where we are. We're going to add a little bit of a side bend to this pose by just walking the hands over to the left a little bit and stretching out the right side just a bit more. Kind of my right arm into my left hand, and I'm just using that for resistance as I pull against my left hand. And we'll come on back to the middle. Pause there for a moment, maybe even give that right side a little bit of movement. And then when you're ready, come over to the left side, same idea, kind of stretching out on that side. And then just returning to the center. Again, it might be nice to do a little movement on that left side. And then you can rise on up to all fours. Do some little pelvic tilts and tucks, some movement in the spine. Sometimes I try to get that to be a wave, so it kind of goes from the bottom all the way up to the top, and from the bottom all the way to the top. And other times it all moves together. into a little bit of a spinal balance. So we'll come to neutral. Take the left leg and the right arm out. And then if you want, you could reach back there and grab hold of that foot with that hand, if it's available to grab, and hold on to it, or just put the arm back down and lift just the leg, heel in towards your hip. And then we'll stretch back out and lower it back down. Couple little cat rounds. And then we'll do the opposite side. Right leg and left arm. And then maybe reaching back through the foot or just lifting that leg. And then releasing the foot and stretching back out. Everything down. A couple cats. And then when you're ready, maybe some downward facing dog sounds like a plan. If you and downward dog are not that big of friends, then you could just use it to get yourself on your feet. Oh, there you are. And if you're good friends with downward dog, stay a while, walk back and forth. Maybe do some other moves. Liquefy. Some mornings I find a lot of tension in my calf muscles. Some mornings they feel a little bit looser. So, part of the fun of some of the poses, maybe the ones that we know well, is that we can sort of take a moment to assess how our body is today in that pose. We have some history, so we can kind of get to know each other again on today's standard. When you're done with your downward dog, you'll come to a standing position. Oh. We're going to find our way to the top of the mat, whatever that side is. Pick one, that's your top. Or front. Front of the mat would work too. Call it what you like. And then we'll just take a moment and feel that mountain pose. And again, maybe there's some things that we notice today, like I'm definitely noticing my calves are extra tight and they want to sort of push me forward. I'm gonna have to work on them a little at a time. And then everything else, like my shoulders feel very relaxed and nice. But some days that feels kind of jacked up. So just notice where you are right this moment. Take a nice big breath, reach the arms overhead. Maybe just like the tiniest little bit of a back bend there. Coming back, we're gonna grab the right arm. And maybe today we even let that get a little bit more candy cane shaped. A little more side bend, maybe not. Coming back to center, we're gonna put all the weight on the right leg. Take a tree pose on the left. Well, with the left leg up anyway. Finding a moment just to find some balance in the craziness, the wobbliness. Maybe there's no balance. And that's all right too. Taking one more breath. We're gonna pick up this left leg and step it on back. So we're gonna take a warrior one shape. Now the warrior one, some people love it, some people don't. If it feels like you're always fighting your back leg, let yourself turn your waist to match your hips and just see if that's better. You could wobble your feet a little wider, see if a wider base feels better. Bring the arms up, Pull back on the reins, send the reindeer forward. Arms up. Pull back on the reins, send the reindeer forward. One more of those. Pull back on the reins, send them forward. And then we're gonna straighten out the front leg and fold over it. Oh, now me and my hamstrings are having a moment. So I just spun my back heel around a little bit so I can dig into those calf muscles a notch. You might want to keep your foot facing more out to the side, right? You might want to do a little less forward bending. Add some blocks. So what does the song say? Tidings of comfort and joy. We'll find a little bit of both if we can amongst our poses today. Last breath here. Put both hands on the floor and step back so we can salute the sun. Coming on down, maybe with knees on the ground, maybe straight. Coming into a back bend, your choice. Pushing back up. Taking ourselves back into three-legged dog. Right leg in the air. Oh, stretch out your toes. Give your ankle a couple circles. I don't know why that excites my parent. Step your right foot forward, and then we'll bring the left one up to meet it. Come up halfway, fold, come all the way to standing. Nice tall stretch, and then find your way to mountain pose. Now we've done something on one side, we haven't done the other. Let's see if we can feel that. I definitely can. Nice big breath, reaching the arms up. Maybe there's a little baby back bend. Coming back to tall, finding ourselves in a little crescent shape, a candy cane shape, if it'll allow us to bend that far. Coming back to center, all the weight on the left leg, bringing the right leg up for tree. Finding a little bit of stillness amongst all the chaos. Picking up that leg, we're going to step ourselves back into warrior one. And again, take a moment, find one that you can work with. Arms up, pull back on the reins, send it forward. Arms up. Pull back on the reins, send them forward. Oh. Send it forward. Straightening out the front leg, we're going to fold toward it. And again, you might choose to turn the foot a little bit in or out. You might choose to stay a little higher or come in a little lower. That's between you and all of the various connection points that live in the back side of your body. Take 2 more breaths. We'll bring both hands to the floor and step back to salute the sun. Coming forward and lowering down. Coming into a back bend of your choice. Taking ourselves back, three-legged dog. Put the left leg in the air. Giving that ankle joint some circles, spreading out the toes. We'll step that foot forward, look up, bring the other one up to it, come up halfway, and fold, and all the way to standing. Nice big stretch. Finding our way back to our mountain pose. And we'll take a moment and just see how it feels. Is it any lighter, friendlier, less friendly than it was before. All right, nice big breath. Arms reach up, finding that little baby back bend. Coming back for our little candy cane crescent stretch. Coming back to center for our tree pose. Weight on the right leg. Maybe your foot kind of wants to creep up a little higher up your leg or a little lower. Both are possible. And take that leg out, kind of make a star shape and turn it sideways so we land in a big star. Oh, turn the toes in if it feels okay to your ankles. Fold forward into a wide angle forward bend. Come up halfway and exhale, fold. I'm just creeping my feet a little wider as I go. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. And then we're gonna come up halfway one more time. Turn the right foot to the right all the way and the left foot in a little bit. So we're going towards the front of the mat, the top of the mat for a triangle pose. So with this left arm kind of hanging towards the floor for a moment, I'm gonna rotate the ribs and open that up and then bring it back down. Give that left arm a little shake. Rotate, bring it up. Oh, bring it back down, give that arm a little shake. Rotate and bring it up. Now this arm can stay up, or you can wrap it in a half bind, or you could even wrap a full bind if you want to take your bottom hand under there and grab hold. Oh. Spread out your toes and resettle them. Create some length down your spine if it feels okay to do that. Oh, there might be more or less rotation here. Just finding your triangle pose. One more breath. And we're going to bend this front knee with the exhale. We'll come into a side angle, nice big breath. Giving ourselves a chance to kind of stretch that side out a bit more. One more breath here. Oh, and then we'll come to warrior two. We're going to turn everything back around for this little star shape. Maybe the toes come in a tiny notch more. We'll fold into a wide angle forward bend. Oh. And I'm just rinsing out any shoulder tension. Feel pretty good, but after that bind. So we're going to come up halfway. We're going to turn the left foot all the way to the left. And then the right foot's going to turn in enough to help me create that triangle shape. So now with my right arm dangling, I'm gonna pull myself open from the waist and let it come back and roll it open. And let it come back. And one more time, roll it open. And again, you might stay with that arm extended. You might bring the arm into a half bind or into a full bind. See what length is there for you. Breathe. Take a moment to find some stability in this pose that can be a little wobbly. One more breath. With the exhale, we'll let go of the bind and bend the front knee, and then inhale into side angle pose. Into warrior two. Turn in that warrior two back into our star. Oh, maybe even putting a little point on our star. And then one more time, we're folding into a wide angle forward bend. Now, there's these little points on the forehead that when you put a little bit of pressure there, help relieve both sinus congestion, but also feelings of anxiety, or, you know, think it's calming. So if you have a block and you can use your forehead like that, you can put your forehead on the block, and I have to have mine turned up all the way tall to find that position, and you might even need 2 blocks. And then just roll your forehead, or you can bend your knees, yeah? Roll your forehead like back and forth from one sort of little temple mound to the other, just across that pressure point. And for me, like kind of digging in toward the eyebrow ridges helps. I'm even gonna let my body kind of get into it by swaying a little bit to one side and then to the other. So I've got a really mild half squat going on here, friends. One more of those. And then I'm going to come back to the center and lift off the block. I'm going to bring my heels in and come into a wide squat. Take my time there. And then we're going to walk our hands around to the front of the mat, step back to down dog to salute the sun. Oh. Coming forward, lowering down, coming into a back bend that feels good to you. Oh. Now, coming back all the way down to the floor. If you were doing an up dog, it might be a little bit of a switcheroo, but try. And then we're gonna take a moment to just roll the shoulders. So I've got my hands placed, like chest height, shoulder height. We're gonna roll the shoulders a few times in one direction, and then into the other, and then lift into a cobra. You can have bent knees or straight legs. Look over one shoulder and then the other. Come on down. So we're gonna slide our hands back just a little bit, not to where the wrist feels like it's in trouble, but just far enough back that it's a slightly different position. Then do it one more time. Circle the shoulders in both directions. Lift into cobra. Look over the right shoulder and the left shoulder, and come on back. And then repositioning the hands, we'll take downward facing dog. Now we're gonna try to do kind of like a little squat in this dog, and then straighten the legs back out. I have to turn my toes out and widen my dog. I'm coming to a little squat, straightening the legs, and I stop just before I feel any discomfort. Some people may find that it's comfortable all the way to the point where their hips touch their heels. A little squat and a dog. And if you like, you can go to that squat and leap up to your hands. Otherwise, walk your hands to your feet. We'll come into a halfway up position, fold and shake out the arms. And then we'll come all the way to standing, give ourselves a big stretch. Coming up to the top of the mat and finding that mountain pose again. Take a nice big breath, reach the arms up. Little baby back bend. Grabbing that left wrist, we'll give ourselves a little stretch over to the right. Maybe it turns into a deeper candy cane shape. Coming back to center all the way to the left leg. Finding a tree pose here. And again, maybe the leg comes up a little higher. Maybe it stays where it is. Making kind of a star shape by sticking the leg out. We're gonna swing ourselves around. Find a wide star, maybe with a point on the top. And then we're gonna fold over. Now, we're gonna make this into almost like this little side to side movement we may have started with the block, but maybe a tad deeper. So coming over to a little half squat on one side, and then over to the other side, and then over to the first side, and over to the other. And then coming back to the middle when we're even on both sides. and folding in. Maybe reaching in behind ourselves. Checking out the world upside down. I used to like to do that when I was a kid. Maybe we can find the wonder there as well. Coming up about halfway, again, we're going to take this squat, but we're going to try to make this guy a little closer to a malasana. So you might have to bring your feet in quite close. And you can drop your forehead forward or keep your spine a little more upright, whatever feels better to you. And then we're going to straighten out the legs, walk back around to the top of the mat, step back to down dog. You can add a sun salute here, or just come to child's pose. That's where we're going to wind up. So after we come through our Cobra, or whatever version you want, we're going to press ourselves back into child's pose and come back home to where we started and see how that feels. Oh, it definitely feels friendlier to me. Quite friendly. So friendly that I could probably stay there for the rest of the class. But when you're ready, come to a seated position on your mat. Now I'm sitting in what for me is the most comfortable cross-legged version, which is left leg up front. Doesn't matter where you start. You can start in the side that's more challenging if you have one of those, or start on your comfy side. We're going to sit up nice and tall and twist towards whatever side that is. If you want to bring the knee up, you can do that. I'm going to leave mine down. So it's just a focus on me twisting my back. I'm going to back off of my lower back just a little bit, and I'm going to try to emphasize my shoulders by doing a couple of things. I'm going to take this shoulder blade that I'm turning towards, that's my left, and I'm going to pull it in a little bit and kind of slide it down. And then this right shoulder blade, I'm going to pull out and sort of push it forward. So I'm emphasizing a kind of movement in my upper back, the area where I tend to carry all of my discomfort and lack of joy. So can I bring some comfort to my upper back? We're going to find out. And then I'm going to release that twist. And as I come back, find some softness in my upper back for a moment. Now you can leave the hips just like they are and just fold forward over your legs. Or if it feels like you might want to go a little farther, you can try the cow face shape, where you stack the knees on top, or a variation on the square pose shape, where we bring the shins up on top of each other. I'm going to use the square pose, but add a block for my ankle joint, and then I'm going to fill in this gap over here. I may have to rescue all of the things on my end table from this ferret who thinks that she can move through all that stuff without knocking it over. Returning to my pose now and just breathing. I'll shake my head quietly over here. So I've leaned in a little bit on my pose, but just to the point where I feel that stretch down the side of my leg and my hip. It feels nice, but not too spicy. Find the right amount of spicy. one more breath. And then we're going to come all the way up, unwind the leg, and give both legs a little bit of a movement, whatever feels nice to you. I'm going to do more of a jiggle than anything. And then we're going to come to the opposite sitting position. And again, if you did your twist with your knee up, cool, do that again. And if you didn't, then find a cross-legged position with that other leg up front. And it may not be your normal way to do things, so there might be a little bit of discomfort. I've got a little blanket tucked in to make sure everything stays comfy, since that's the theme we're working with today. So again, I've twisted myself around, and now I'm going to back off of my lower back just a little bit. I'm sending this left shoulder blade forward, drawing my right shoulder blade in and down to emphasize this movement in my upper back. Without being too aggressive. Can I find, like, oh yeah, some movement in the muscles there behind my shoulder blades, around them, in between them. One more breath on this side. And I'm going to release the pose. Give that upper back area a little bit of movement. And then I'm going to bring myself into my square pose version, whatever that may be, or your cow face, or you just stay sitting cross-legged. And maybe just sitting up tall is enough. You already feel a stretch. You don't need more. If you want more, lean into it. If you want less, lean back. I just like spend my whole time in poses kind of checking out, like if I lift up a little bit here, what happens? If I lean a little bit there, what happens? And I don't always know what's going to happen. Sometimes I have a little familiar landscape to travel around in. Sometimes there's some really interesting sort of correlations between like tightness in one hip and a little bit of tightness up the opposite side neck, which I find really interesting and fascinating in the way that the body is kind of woven together. But it does seem like sometimes that's true. Definitely one whole side can be impacted by, like one tight hip will impact the knee and the back and the shoulder on that same side, but often I find them on opposite sides too. Some compensation happening. So we'll have one more breath here with whatever we're discovering. Let yourself inhale up, and we'll release that shape and give both legs a little bit of movement or some kind of switch up. Now we're going to do a forward bend that has the legs doing the same thing. Could be a forward bend with your both legs straight, either close together or wide apart, or you could do a little butterfly cobbler's pose, which is the one that I'm going to pick today. So I'm just tilting my pelvis forward and kind of getting out of the way of myself here. So my pelvis is as far forward as it's willing to go. You can fill in the gap with pillows or blankets or anything that feels nice under your knees. I usually take one blanket and kind of stick it under both just to create some stability there. And then lengthening the spine out, you can let your spine stay nice and tall, kind of build up some things to lean into, or you can let your back round if it feels okay to your lower back, and turn this almost into a tortoise. So this pose, which is kind of halfway between the cobbler's pose and the tortoise, is by some in some yoga schools called the star pose, which is why I've chosen it for obvious reasons. And you can star your arms out a bit if you like, to make your raise a little bigger. we'll spend about 4 more breaths here. And for me, this is kind of a chance to really get to know my lower back with breath. Feeling that expansion and release of the breath in my lower back feels really lovely. Our lower backs work really hard for us. Maintain all of this upper body work, upper body mobility through its stability. So I'm going to start by bringing my arms around behind me and then inhaling my torso so that my chest comes up and my back gets taller. And then I'm going to unhinge from my hip. And then I'm going to bring my knees together and give this whole thing a little bit of movement. Now we're going to do a couple things laying down, but before we get to that, let's do a little bit of breath work. So the first thing is to discover, can you breathe through both of your nostrils? And today, both of my nostrils are miraculously open. So if they're not, then what you'll do instead of closing off the opposite nostril, like last night, I did this breathwork pattern and my right nostril was nearly completely blocked. So rather than completely close off my left nostril, which made it impossible to breathe, I simply focused my attention on the right nostril and left my finger, lightly resting against my left nostril. But I let myself breathe. That's the important part. It is a breath practice, after all. So you're going to take your peace sign fingers and either rest them right in the center of the forehead in that same kind of area that we were massaging, right? So right in that sort of center point, just above the kind of ridge of the brow. Or if that feels claustrophobic for whatever reason, you can curl the fingers in, kind of press them into your thumb. We're going to use the ring finger and the thumb of your dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm using my right hand. Now I kind of lean my forehead into my fingertips so that there's a little feeling of stability there. I'm not closing off my throat by any means. And then we're going to take 3 deep breaths with nothing happening. We're just going to let that, just the positioning happen. So inhale and then let yourself exhale. And just try to relax a little bit because we want to do breath practices from a relaxed state. And this breath practice is about sort of balancing, calming, centering. So we're going to see if it works. So start your next inhale by kind of positioning yourself to breathe just through your left nostril. Switch over and exhale through your right if you can. Inhale, paying attention to the right side. Switch nostrils, exhale, paying attention to the left. Inhale, paying attention left. Switch sides, pay attention to the right as you exhale. And again as you inhale. Switch sides, pay attention to the left side. Again with the inhale. Switch sides, exhale. Keep your attention on the right. Switch to the left. Stay there. Switch to the right with your exhale. Stay there for inhale. Switch to the left. Now we're going to do these on our own, so you can pace it the way you like. We'll do about 5 more rounds. I've got one more round. I'm going to end when I finish exhaling again through my left nostril. Still have a round to go, you can finish that, and when you're done with that exhale through the left nostril, pause. And just see where the breath work brought you. This is called Nadi Shodena, or alternate nostril breathing. And the left side channel is thought to be our kind of calming channel or cooling channel. This breath work can be great for sort of centering your mind or calming down if you feel a little bit agitated. If you can think to breathe at that point. And it's meant to be sort of a balancing action. You can also do breath work that kind of focuses on the right nostril for more energizing practice. But for our purposes, since we're kind of nearing the end here, we're going to use it for calming. So we're going to lay on our back. And once there, we'll bring the knees in. So we can use a little opportunity to do a little boat pose on our way down. Maybe drawing the legs up, and then letting that finish. Move my little buns off to the side here. Okay. So we're gonna take a moment in this kind of little back massaging, not quite a happy baby, but not moment here. And as you come over to one side, sort of feel where that lands you. And then the same thing over to the other side. So just go back and forth a few times. You may discover you like one side more than the other. And then you sort of have some choices around the twist. So I'm going to go to my left first. I usually go to my right, but I'm feeling the left side today. So I'm going to go over to the left. And you could, grab hold of your big toe and stretch that leg all the way out. You can wrap your legs like an eagle. They can be stacked. You can have one leg straight and kind of wrap around. So there's some choices there. You can add the support of a blanket or a pillow to give yourself something to lean into. You can reach the arm out or up. You can turn the head different directions. So sort of choose appropriately for yourself. Two more breaths where we are. Bring the legs back to the center. Give ourselves a moment. Maybe come back to that little, not exactly happy baby, but not happy baby. Noticing the difference in my spine and the difference in the way my hips feel. And then you'll take your opposite twist when you feel like it's a good idea. Twists are super helpful for relieving tension along the sides of our body, from our lower back. If we're gentle, kind to ourselves with the twist, don't get too aggressive. They're great for giving ourselves a chance to sort of massage our internal organs if you're planning a feast at all in the next day or so. Some twists help keep everything friendly and happy in that abdominal region. more breaths where you are. And we're going to bring ourselves back to the center. And again, you could do any little movement that you like. And we'll sort of set ourselves up for a Shavasana, corpse pose, a finishing pose. Maybe you want to put your legs up on the couch or something like that instead of out flat. But we'll let ourselves find some space here. I'm going to cover with a blanket because it's a little chilly where I am, but if it is toasty and warm where you are, you could skip that step. Add anything you need to make it comfortable. Because we're going to see if we can let ourselves just sink into a space of just present moment wonder. Some gratitude for the blessings brought to us this year and the lessons as well. That one's harder sometimes. You set an intention, circle yourself back to your intention and let it go. Send it off into the universe to do its work for you. Relax all the muscles in your face and your jaw. Let the lips get fluffy and soft, a little pillowy. As you're ready, just let your attention circle back to your breath. Nice deep inhale. Let it go with a sigh. Give your fingers and toes a little wiggle, wrist and ankles. Stretch. When it seems like a good idea, you can find your way to a seated position. So thanks for joining me for some Christmas Eve flow yoga. Hopefully it was fun and you feel some comfort and maybe even some joy. We'll take a breath together. Nice big inhale. And a sigh. Namaste, friends.